Now let's go ahead and get into our first story of the night, and that is going to focus on fluoride. Fluoride, of course, you guys know I've been reporting on fluoride since 2010. I've shared this story before. This was actually one of the first topics that I ever started to question back in 2011, 2012. I put up some, there's poison in the tap water signs from InfoWars, Alex Jones in my neighborhood, and somebody started tearing them down, and that encouraged me to just keep doing it. So I've had some time researching this. And then most recently, of course, I've been involved with the fluoride lawsuit, the fluoride trial. And I've been the only one really covering it. I mean, for a large part, I've been the main person keeping up with this topic. And I wish more people were, but thankfully people have had me on. They've interviewed me. You can find all of my past articles at thelastAmericanVagabond.com. And we have so right here, if you see T-Lab team, you'll see Ryan, Carrie, Whitney Webb. You see Derrick right there. You scroll down and you'll see fluoride trial. You can click on that and then it'll bring you straight to this page. And this is all the articles I've written for the last 4 years, including fact-checking the fact-checkers most recently in February 29th, where there was some other previous garbage coming out that I had to do a video about. So now I'm doing another one trying to debunk this, because what I'm going to show you is two pieces of evidence of a propaganda campaign. This first one right here is basically the article version of a video I'm going to play. It says medical freedom versus public health. Should fluoride be in our drinking water? Misinformation campaigns increasingly target the cavity-fighting mineral, prompting communities to reverse mandates. Of course, there's already deception. Cavity fighting, that's what we've been told our entire lives. But as I'm going to go over in a minute, there's been more than a couple of studies over the years that have shown either negligible to no measurable difference minus fluoride. And fluoride is not a mineral. I mean, I guess in its natural form, yes, the fluoride molecule, fluorine, but what we're talking about is hydrofluorosilicic acid, which is a byproduct of phosphate mining and which is called fluoride and is, again, byproduct of phosphate mining. It's a waste that these aluminum companies would have to spend thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to dispose of, but instead they sell it to cities and they put it in the water and your kids ingest it. It says, so misinformation campaigns are increasingly targeting the cavity-fighting mineral, prompting communities to reverse mandates. Dentists are enraged. Parents are caught in the middle. Oh, it's such a struggle out there for parents to try to figure out the truth. And I think to some degree it really is, because if you're just a regular person and you don't know anything and you see this and NBC News is telling you it's, that only crazies think this, just like only crazies question the vaccine. And of course, they're going to have the prerequisite dentists and doctors being quoted in here to tell you like, it's all good. And one thing I just want to take a note of, I tweeted about this earlier today. Look at this article. It came out May 7th, so it's almost a week old, but it has 3 names attached to it. It took 3 people to write this article. Guys, I write 2,000 word, 4,000 word articles by myself all the time. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. I can make mistakes like anybody else, but it took Erica Edwards here, who's a health and medical news writer and reporter for NBC News and Today. She has a Twitter account, so I tweeted at her. Jason Kane is the producer of the NBC News Health and Medical Unit. He's got an email, so we could reach out to him. And Aaron McLaughlin is an NBC News correspondent. They also have an email, no social media account listed there. So this is not a long article, but it's mostly propaganda and pretty much just saying that, yes, there's all these communities pushing back and people are wanting to reverse course and get rid of fluoride in the water, and this is a bad thing. But I just thought it was interesting that, like for example, let's just do this. Let's just do a Control F lawsuit. Does it mention the fluoride lawsuit anywhere? Okay, so here's what I find. A federal judge in California is considering whether health officials should stop adding fluoride to drinking water. That's it. A federal judge in California. This is one of the things I hate about mainstream media. Think about this. If you actually are an educated or wanting to be an educated parent, you're like, okay, I don't want to just trust my conspiracy theory friend on the internet, and I don't want to just trust the news either. Oh, wow, that's interesting. A federal judge is considering whether health officials should stop adding fluoride to the drinking water, but there's no link to the case. There's no name of the judge. There's nothing here. It's just like, I always hate that about corporate media. And I think it is by design that they'll give you a little bit of information like that. For one, that is an insufficient amount of information. I've written dozens of articles about the fluoride lawsuit. I was in San Francisco for 2 weeks on a daily basis doing live tweeting, getting this information out there. And these 3 writers, all they got is a federal judge in California is considering whether health officials should stop adding fluoride. And then they mentioned there have been more than 100 lawsuits over the years trying to get rid of fluoride without success, according to American Fluoridation Society and Advocacy Group. So those are the pro-fluoridation lobby. But that is it. That's literally it. There's nothing. And let's see, National Toxicology Program. For those who followed my work, you guys know that the U.S. National Toxicology Program, nope, not finding anything, is the department that actually concluded in a report that we found out Rachel Levine of the U.S. Health and Services blocked the release of in 2022, and we only found that out because of emails that came out. This is what I've been reporting on in my work over the years, and I heard this from Michael Connett, the lead attorney. I interviewed the lead scientist, Dr. Howard Hu, Dr. Bruce Lamphere, some of the others who are part of the Fluoride Act, not part of the Fluoride Action Network, but they're the expert witnesses, Dr. Philippe Grandjean. I interviewed Brenda, the mother, who's a part of the lawsuit. I've actually been talking to these people and getting this information. And what we know is that because of this lawsuit and because of emails that came out, that Rachel Levine, U.S. government official, was listed in emails as having blocked the release of the U.S. National Toxicology Program report back in May 2022 that the scientists themselves said they know for certain was ready for release. And that report clearly concluded that fluoride exposure leads to lower IQ in children. And that report still has not been made public, but it was allowed in as evidence during the lawsuit. But again, back to this, there's not even, I searched National Toxicology Program. Let's search NTP. Let's just search neurotoxins, see what comes up. We got one mention. Similar to the anti-vaccine movement, which has focused on disgraced research associating the MMR, measles, mumps, and rubella shots with autism, groups opposed to fluoride tend to rely on one study that suggests the mineral is a neurotoxin that lowers children's level of intelligence. So first of all, that's bullshit. One study. No, it's not just one study. Again, I already showed you guys they don't mention the National Toxicology Program, so that's not listed in here. But they're going to show a study from 2019, JAMA Pediatrics, that did involve Dr. Bruce Lamphere, who spoke at the trial, and I interviewed him. You can find that on our website, and you can actually hear him in his own words. They give him two sentences here, so they're not going to let him really speak freely. And Dr. Bruce Lamphere is actually somebody I do have a lot of respect for. He's been speaking out in Canada about exposure to pesticides and other things as well. So they just straight up lying right here that there's only one study, and you see how the goal here is to equate the anti-vax movement, the anti-fluoridation movement, which I don't even like that name. Like, we're pro-clean water. We're pro-choice. All people are saying is that perhaps taxpayers shouldn't have to pay to add some poison to the water. Maybe if parents want it, they should buy fluoride tablets, or they should, buy fluoridated toothpaste, but not put it in your water where you're going to be drinking. It's going to be washing over your organs, where it really has no impact other than negative. So even if you believe the whole garbage about it's going to lower dental cavities and stuff like that, then there's no benefit to put it in the water. It's removing people's freedom of choice. It's a waste of money. It costs cities like $1 million a year. I know that's what it used to cost Houston. And we do know that it's a neurotoxin, and it's not just based on one study. Again, they're trying to equate this to the anti-vaccine movement, which they try to say, oh, they all look at the work of, what was the name? Dr. Andrew Wakefield and his debunked disgrace study, et cetera. That's the refrain with the quote unquote pro-vaxxers, I guess. And they're trying to do the same thing here and say, oh, people who are against fluoride, they literally just rely on one study. They're that stupid. They see one study and that's all they need. This is just, it's total garbage, guys. But again, I don't think this is happening for no reason. I don't think the fact that we've seen this report and the video I'm about to play you, and I've seen others more recently coming out, I don't think this is happening for no reason. There have, in fact, been a number of localities in the United States that have been getting rid of fluoride for generations now. It's been happening. But more recently, there's been a good amount of cities in Florida and elsewhere. And I think, as we're going to see in this report I'm about to play you, in North Carolina and a few other places. So it is happening. So I think this is twofold, that the powers that wish they were are realizing that perhaps the tide is turning on one of their other top 10 greatest health achievements of the 20th century. Because yes, they consider vaccines and fluoride, water fluoridation, to be the top 10 public health achievements of the 20th century. So there's no way they want to admit that they got it wrong and that people have been getting harmed for generations. So they're going to just ride this shit all the way to the end and pretend like everybody else is crazy. And it's pretty sad to watch. But they're doing this, I believe, because they see the tide is turning, and perhaps somebody got wind that Judge Edward Chin, which again, they don't even mention the judge's name here. They just say some California judge. And again, back to my point earlier, that's so annoying because if you are a parent that's looking for more information, you really have very little to go on. I guess you could search fluoride California lawsuit, and you might find it if Google lets you. Hopefully you're not using Google, you're using CRX, you're using pre-search, or you're just search on video platforms, free video platforms, non-YouTube platforms, other platforms. Fluoride lawsuit. I've tried to use that hashtag everywhere, so you definitely would probably find my work. But my point is, they don't give you a lot of information to go on. They just give you this one sentence, oh yeah, federal judge, California, something, something, something. It's not that important. Don't worry about it. When literally I've written thousands and thousands of words about this case because there's so much to it. But let's go ahead. I want to play you this clip now. So this is just a short clip from NBC. It's basically the video version of this article, but it's worth seeing. And just listen to the language. This is a great study in propaganda because, like, right off the bat, they say, because of anti-fluoridation activists, now mothers are scrambling to try to figure out how to get enough fluoride for their children. It's ridiculous. But okay, so check this out. This is NBC's propaganda rag about fluoride.
Abby Udi Smith is extra careful about brushing her son Teddy's teeth now that her local tap water no longer contains fluoride. After community members in Union County, North Carolina, came forward to express concerns, the county commission voted 3-2 to remove it.
I didn't even know that there was a fight against fluoride.
Eddie, are you ready to come back?
She's now scrambling to figure out what to do next for her 2 small children.
We're going to have to talk about possibly supplementing.
Dentist Meg Lockery is alarmed. She says fluoride, a naturally occurring mineral, should be added to public water to help develop strong teeth, especially for small children and those without access to a dentist. Toothpaste with fluoride, she says, is not enough because the fluoride needs to be ingested.
We know that fluoride works. All the journal articles have shown that there's a 25% reduction in children and adult decay for people that are in community fluoridated water.
Despite being the norm for decades in local debates, the nationwide fight over fluoride in water is reaching new heights in the wake of COVID and the anti-vax movement, pitting dentists like Lockery
I hope you consider leaving the fluoride in the water for the most vulnerable of our population
against activists.
How long can our society bear the cost of knowingly lowering our population's IQ?
In Union County, the debate erupted when officials prepared to open a new water treatment plant. The local chair of the right-wing political group Moms for Liberty pointed to a controversial 2019 Canadian study that showed slightly lower IQ scores in children whose mothers had higher levels of fluoride exposure during pregnancy, though the study's author acknowledges more research is needed.
Fluoride is actually the one substance that we add to our water that's not meant to address the quality of the water.
County Commissioner Brian Helms voted to remove fluoride.
By putting a substance that's meant for, a medicinal type benefit into our water, it brings up a significant question about consent.
Major health organizations, including the CDC, the American Dental Association, and the American Academy of Pediatrics, support fluoride in drinking water. But it's been rejected by dozens of communities throughout the U.S. in recent years, with activists determined to press further.
The public is starting to become more aware and less blindly trusting of authorities.
So is your goal to remove fluoride from public water sources nationwide?
Absolutely. Yes.
Leaving parents like Abby Udi Smith increasingly worried about the long-term impact of her tap water.
It definitely will mean more avid teeth brushing and just keeping up on dentist appointments.
Erin McLaughlin, NBC News, Union County, North Carolina.
It's kind of hilarious if it wasn't so sad that the propaganda is that obvious. So let me just make a couple points here. Let's first of all, let me show you one other thing here. This is from NBC News. So this is why I'm saying, like, there's something going on. They put out an article written by 3 people. I don't know why it took 3 people to write that crap. And then they put out a video report that they probably played on all the different NBC stations around the country. And then NBC News just 2 days ago is tweeting this as misinformation, or not tweeting, excuse me, they're posting on Instagram. I'm sure they did tweet it too. As misinformation campaigns increasingly target fluoride in water, prompting communities to reverse mandates, dentists are enraged. It's the same, propaganda from there. But just look at the language. Is fluoride the new anti-vax? The push to remove fluoride from public water systems seems to be fueled by mistrust of government oversteps, steps and misleading claims that the mineral is harmful. And again, you see this language, mineral. They're trying to associate calcium fluoride or sodium fluoride, which sometimes can be added to the water, but typically is not the substance that they're adding to the water. They're adding hydrofluorosilicic acid or various components that are related to that. But they want to frame it like it's just a harmless mineral because that sounds more natural than something that's a byproduct of phosphate mining. Now, let's go to another point here. I showed you guys that you can find all my articles on The Last American Vagabond about fluoride. I want to cover the one I put out a few months ago called Fact Checking the Fact Checkers. This came out in late February. Experts say fluoridated water not safe to drink. And this was me responding, as you can see on screen. This is from factcheck.org. CDC experts say fluoridated water is safe, contrary to RFK Jr.'s warnings, because RFK Jr. put out a tweet on social media that actually did reference the National Toxicology Program study. And so factcheck.org and some other folks got to work to try to scare anybody away that might be questioning fluoride. But let's go ahead and address, for one, I don't know where that woman got the number that 25% of, you see a 25% reduction of cavities with fluoride. I've never seen that in any study I've looked at, even the studies that are allegedly on the positive side. But let's go ahead and look into this. So factcheck.org interviews Dr. Stephen Novella, a neurologist at Yale School of Medicine, who states that water fluoridation, because it, quote, had as a demonstrable positive impact on dental health, that's why it should continue. He says even further that fluoride reduces cavities and improves overall dental health. He said, quote, it has downstream effects as well because bad dental health can cause general health problems, heart disease, etc. So, as I write here, while the connection between dental health and mental health is indeed becoming more widely known, the long-believed claim of water fluoridation reducing cavities is also under renewed scrutiny. The recently published Lotus cohort study, How Effective and Cost-Effective is Water Fluoridation for Adults and Adolescents, examined the differences between fluoridated and non-fluoridated populations in the United Kingdom and found literal measurable difference. This was literally just months ago, this new study came out. So I don't know what this lady's talking about, 25%. I'm not saying this one study debunks everything, but they did a pretty good report. This is by the UK government because the UK government is actually thinking about starting to fluoridate their population. They do in some parts, but they want to do like a whole nation sort of thing. The researchers in this Lotus study concluded, quote, this study suggests that exposure to optimal water fluoridation between 2010 and 2020 resulted in, quote, exceedingly small health effects, very small reductions in NHS dental service utilization, and no meaningful reduction in social inequalities, which is what people claim that like, oh, this is going to be good because the poor people who can't afford dental care, this will help make sure that they don't get cavities. And that's a strain on our public health care system. If more people have to go to the dentist, it's just this whole bullshit argument, but none of it's actually true from what the data is actually showing. So when you hear that in the report, you know, for one, going back to the NBC article and then their little report there, they make very brief passing mentions of the lawsuit. They don't really go deep into it. Okay, they interview one of the doctors from the lawsuit, but they definitely, I'm sure Dr. Bruce Lanphier had a lot to say, and they definitely didn't put all he had to say in that article. And, overall, they're calling it a mineral. They're claiming it's good for cavities. They're saying parents are scrambling. They don't know what to do. Oh my God, they're getting rid of the fluoride in the water. What will I ever do? I don't know what. I guess I could still, if I wanted, ask my dentist to put the poison in my kid's mouth, but which parents can do. And like, look, freedom. If that's what you want to do, you have the freedom to do so, but it shouldn't be extorting the taxpayer to put fluoride in the water. Not to mention that this thing seems to be a neurotoxin, and it seems like the data has shown that they've known for decades about it, and they've been covering it up and hiding it. So maybe it's time to get rid of the fluoride. Unfortunately, we are going in that direction, and the powers that wish they were and the corporate media hacks are seeing the writing on the wall, and so they're putting out more propaganda pieces. We could probably expect there will be more. So I'll keep my eye on them as they develop. And just to wrap up, no, there has been no answer to the lawsuit yet. I do think it is coming. I do think the judge's ruling is, again, the trial ended in late February. They finished giving the documents by, I think, March 10th from both sides. So we're going on 60 days past since the judge has had every accessible document, had all witness testimony, et cetera. And there's still been no ruling. Because I get a lot of questions on social media. Derrick, what happened to this? What happened to this? Trust me, the moment I get an answer, I've already talked to Michael his name's escaping me right now, but Michael, who's the lead attorney for the Fluoride Action Network. And he's already told me that we're going to do an interview the very day that he gets the word. And we're going to break it down, whatever we hear, good or bad news, and what comes next. So just trust me. Once I know, you will know. So thank you guys for that. Hey friends, this is Derrick Broze with the Conscious Resistance Network. The clip you just watched is from my recently relaunched podcast, The Conscious Resistance Live. Now, I'm going to continue to release free clips every single week for those of you who follow me on social media platforms. But if you want to see the entire show, which is about an hour and a half, 2 hours long, you're going to want to sign up to be a monthly supporter via Buy Me a Coffee or Substack. And every show I'm going to be sharing about 3 or 4 hard-hitting news stories that you're not going to see covered in the mainstream or the alternative media. We're also going to be featuring exclusive interviews, and we also have a segment called What's Derrick Reading, where I highlight some of my books behind me and share about what I'm reading lately and just offer my perspective. Finally, every episode is going to end with a music video from a conscious musician. So if you're looking to get inspired, looking for some new music, you're definitely going to want to check this out. So you can sign up at derrickbroze.substack.com or buymeacoffee.com/derrickbroze to become a monthly supporter to make sure you see every episode of the Conscious Resistance Live on Mondays at 7 p.m. Central. Thank you guys so much for the support. I really couldn't do this without you. Until next time, remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free.